I couldn't do that. Who'd look after her? You understand? I don't hate her. I hate what she's become. I hate the illness.
Wouldn't it be better if you put her someplace?
You mean an institution?
Today I'm going to be presenting to you Carl Jung. When it comes to Norman Bates, the different levels of his psyche can be explored in depth. When looking at the personal unconscious, one can begin to understand Norman fully. According to Carl Jung, the personal unconscious embraced all repressed, forgotten, or subliminally perceived experiences of the individual. Throughout his life, Norman appears to repress the traumatic incident of his mother's murder. Unable to cope with the horror of knowing he killed his mother, coupled with the fact that he cannot seem to live a normal life without her presence, he simply represses this memory. Jung would say that Norman has a complex when it comes to his mother. His mother sparks an emotional response that blocks the smooth flow of thought. This can be seen whenever he is speaking to a woman. His mother pops up in his thoughts, trying to keep him from the other woman, as well as physically appearing within him. Jung would say that Norman's collective unconscious plays a role in the actions he takes. The collective unconscious is the human's innate tendency to react in a particular way whenever their experiences stimulate biologically inherited response tendency. Naturally, it is a human response to want to protect a loved one and look out for their best interests. So when Norman's mother, Norma, kills a woman staying at the motel, his natural instinct is to protect his loving mother. His mother has taken care of him his whole life, and it has practically been just the two of them.
It's you and me. It's always been you and me. We belong to each other.
So it is only natural for him to respond in the way he does, which would be going to great lengths to cover up the murder. Jung would consider this biologically based predisposition to protect loved ones to be what drives the majority of Norman's actions. Archetypes play another major role in Norman's life. This can be seen through his portrayal of both the persona and the shadow. Jung believed the persona to be the personality that people show to the world. For Norman, this persona is that of a meek innkeeper.
Dirty night.
You have a vacancy.
Oh, we have 12 vacancies. 12 cabins, 12 vacancies. They moved away the highway.
He portrays this personality of being very shy, lonely, and almost boyish. This fits very well into his circumstances, considering he lives alone, running a motel off the beaten path. He doesn't get many passerbyers, let alone customers, and in turn receives a very limited human interaction. The shadow, on the other hand, is the archetype of darkness and repression. It represents those qualities one does not wish to acknowledge and attempts to hide from oneself as well as others. Norman's shadow is none other than his mother, Norma. After her death, he was not able to cope with the loss, as described before, and in turn gives up part of himself to be his mother. During normal life, he is capable of suppressing his mother. It is not until he ends up in the presence of a woman that he is no longer to keep his shadow at bay. Being around a woman brings out his mother's hatred for all other women, claiming them to be whores, which leads to Norman murdering people but in the form of his mother. This strange dynamic brings about anima, the feminine side of Norman, is the half of him that is occupied by his mother.
Now we will be discussing Sigmund Freud. When developing a first impression of Norman, one might suggest mild neurosis as his condition, though through catharsis we see that his psychological profile is much more unsettling. Norman Bates had a rough childhood, constantly subjected to his mother's harsh disposition against women that he brought in the house. Through exile and torment, Norman's infatuation to others outside the home becomes suppressed. This anxiety represses his feelings for women into the unconscious. After years of development with this building anxiety, his mother's death strikes in him a turning point. No longer subjected to suppression by his mother, the memories came skewed, the perceptual conscious as a physical reenactment of his mother. Norman Bates' second side, his mother, comes out through fits of anger and malice when Norman subjugates himself to the company of other women. Through episodes of anxiety attacks, he dresses up as his mother and acts out her bidding, like murdering a motel guest. He even goes as far as to speak with her corpse as if she were still alive. It is almost as if the ego of Mrs. Bates got transferred to her son upon death.
Mother!
The death of Norma's husband severed the connection she had to pleasure in the world. You can make the determination that her id suffered a loss of ability to function when the object of her primary processes disappears. The ego, unable to admit the loss of control, a lack of stability in her life, had her succumb to a rigid superego. Feeling like she is in control of her last love in her life, her son becomes the infatuation.
I'm gonna show you upstairs.
What's up here? My room?
No, I put you down here, closer to me.
When Norman is seen with other women, she gets anxious that he will leave her, and thus her paranoia leads to commit violent acts. Norman, on the other hand, displaces his unconscious hatred of his mother by pleasing her at home, dressing up and communicating in the mirror, while attempting to talk to women behind her back. Of course, Mother no longer has a back to Norman Bates. In an attempt to rid of Mother by putting her in the basement, Norman's guard was down and his mother came through full swing. Once captive by the police, Norma was once again alive and kicking with Norman, no longer even recognizing his existence.
It's sad when a mother has to speak the words that condemn her own son, but I couldn't allow them to believe that I would commit murder. They'll put him away now, as I should have, years ago. He was always bad, and in the end he intended to tell them I killed those girls and that man, as if I could do anything except just sit and stare, like one of his stuffed birds. Oh, they know I can't even move a finger, and I won't. I'll just sit here and be quiet, just in case they do suspect me. They're probably watching me. Well, let them. Let them see what kind of a person I am. I'm not even gonna swat that fly. I hope they are watching. They'll see. They'll see and they'll know, and they'll say, why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
Norman's home represents the most primitive parts of the mind, the superego, ego, and the id. The superego represents acceptable behaviors that are guided by moralistic principles and have no contact with the outside world. This is the upper level of the home. This is where Norman is disciplined by his mother, who criticizes him for wanting to spend time with Marion, as she believes that Norman has sexual intentions with her. Unlike the pleasure principle, the superego will not allow for any inappropriate or sexual behavior.
Now, Mother, I'm gonna bring something up.
I am sorry, boy, but you do manage to look ludicrous when you give me orders.
Please, Mother.
No, I will not hide in the fruit cellar. You think I'm fruity, huh? I'm staying right here. This is my room, and no one will drag me out of it. Least of all, my big, bold son.
They'll come now, Mother. He came after the girl, and now someone will come after him. Mother, please, it's just for a few days. Just for a few days so they won't find you.
The ego, or the sides that we actively display to the public in Freudian theory, is the balance of both superego and ego. In the first level of his house, Norman lives according to his ego. There are no discussions with his dead mother, nor dressing up like her. This is the side that he demonstrates to the public. If one were to view Norman in the ground level of his home, he would appear as a normal, healthy adult male.
Put me down. Put me down. I can walk on my own.
explains, striving for successive superiority is one dynamic force behind an individual's behavior. Norman Bates strives for superiority. He watches others continuously, watching their every move, making sure no one crosses his mother's path. He wants to become the dominant male and overshadow his older brother, Dylan. Norman will do anything in his power to remain the one in charge, even if that means killing. Killing is only the very surface of the ways in which Norman gains superiority. His mother, Norma, is the god Norman worships, and if he pleases her, all superiority is given to him. Norma appeared to be large and powerful, and attachment to her became a natural means of attaining superiority for Norman. According to Adler, Norman's conscious thoughts are those that are understood to be helpful, but his unconscious thoughts are the ones that hurt him the most. Norman blacks out, and his unconscious takes over. Everything he does while his unconscious releases is forgotten, and when the conscious awakens, he has no idea what had just happened. Adler would conclude that this happens probably because Norman has an underdeveloped social interest. He does not believe that there is a oneness between him and others. Norman is alone in his mind. Norman lives in his own private world alongside his mother, and no one seems to be relevant. His life has its own private meaning, according to Adler. The meaning of his life is to be with his mother and protect her. His underdeveloped social interests stemmed from a pampered lifestyle when he was younger. Adler would conclude that Norman's relationship with Norma has become parasitic, and they are no longer helping one another. They are feeding off one another and breaking each other down. Norman has a great fear of leaving his mother, and Norma has a great fear of leaving Norman. Neither of them are spending time apart, and they are constantly at each other's side.
All of a sudden, it's community theater. Since when did you care about the theater? It's a stupid musical.
I just wanted to do something fun with you.
We live together, yeah? We work together. We eat every meal together. We sleep 6 inches away from each other with a thin wall between us. Don't you think that's probably enough?
This relationship would frighten Adler, and the behaviors Norman partakes in would not be a surprise, though. Norman feels that he needs to prove himself to his mother because of his pampered relationship that he has received. He feels that he must prove himself worthy of this loving mother. Adler also takes into consideration birth order. Norman Bates is the youngest child. According to Adler, Norman is dependent on others, his mother. Unrealistically ambitious, he believes that killing those who hurt Norma or intimidate him will solve the problems his unconscious creates. And he received the pampering from Norma that the firstborn would not receive. Norman is completely sheltered and covered from others. Norma has created such a strong grip on Norman, he doesn't know what life is without her.